Hi, I'm Steve Ehrman, Director of the Flashlight Program for the Evaluation and Improvement of Educational Uses of Technology. Let's talk for a few minutes about how to evaluate brief hybrid workshops. What do I mean by evaluate? I mean gathering evidence that you can use to do better next time. We'll start by talking briefly about using feedback during a workshop. Then we'll describe a technique for evaluating a workshop as it ends, or soon after it ends. And we'll conclude by discussing a strategy for evaluating a program of using brief hybrid workshops to engage faculty at your institution. Now, all of this is first draft stuff, so I'm hopeful you'll send me ideas for how to improve in all three of these areas. I'll give you my email address on the last slide. First, it's often important to ascertain early where participants are with regard to what you'd like to teach them. What if some of them are as knowledgeable or even more knowledgeable than you are? How would you do things differently? How early would you need to know this? Can you wait until the beginning of the workshop? Need to find it out in advance? Same thing goes on the needs side. Suppose you want to teach about a technique for supporting collaboration, and you're not aware that 1/3 of the potential participants think that collaborative learning is a waste of time, that they don't need the workshop. These are things that can be useful to discover in advance. Second, here's a technique you may already know. If you're like me, you may not do it often enough, however. Just pause every once in a while during the workshop and ask participants to write down a point that's still muddy. They can hand it in, or if you're online, they can put it in a chat room or in an email. Do you have techniques that you use during a workshop to get guidance from participants? If so, and if you're in a group, you might want to pause the video now and talk about them. Okay, the workshop is over. What questions might you ask to learn something useful about how to do it better next time? One rule of thumb, the fewer and more concrete your questions, the more likely you are to get responses, and useful ones. Here are 3 questions that should work with almost any workshop. How do you get answers? Well, if you can budget the time for it in a very brief workshop, and if people haven't left before it's over, gather people together in 1 or more small groups. 4 to 5 people per group is good, and ask them the questions that were on that previous slide. If you don't have time during a brief workshop to do this, send a follow-up survey. If you're a Flashlight Online user, the questions on the previous slide are already in Flashlight Online as a template, and the number's there on the screen. If you're using a survey for any sort of evaluative purpose, you might also want to glance at this chapter from the Flashlight Evaluation Handbook. It describes about a dozen strategies for increasing the percentage of folks who respond to your online surveys. Okay, here's the third and last of my suggestions. This is about evaluating a whole program of using brief hybrid workshops, trying to get feedback to enable the program to be more successful. Now, one major goal for such workshops, as well as for many other TLT group strategies and resources like student technology assistant programs, is to find a way to reach out and engage a greater percentage of faculty at your institution to help improve teaching and learning across the board. So, to evaluate these new services, it would make sense to estimate the fraction of your academic staff that you've been helping, and to see whether, over time, these new techniques are helping you to assist a larger proportion of the folks who do the teaching at your institution. At the same time, you can try to discover what concerns them and how adequate existing services are for helping them out. Now, prepare for some frustrations along the way as your evidence comes in. People may, for example, suggest that you create a new service when one already exists. Well, that's good evaluative information about your marketing. Anything you learn that's unexpected or frustrating is often data. It's often a discovery that can be useful. Okay, that's it. Here are a couple of final references. The first one contains suggestions for how to evaluate any faculty development or support program, especially one dealing with uses of technology to support teaching and learning. The second one is a report I wrote back in 1995 that actually still seems valuable. It discusses ways of using pre-produced video to help improve teaching and how to evaluate those kinds of uses. If you have any kinds of suggestions for how to improve the content of this presentation or the way that it's been put together as an eClip, please do email me at airman@tltgroup.org. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.